The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being.
Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. As always, we have a packed show for you. Let's get started with our big focus. It is the deepest rift ever between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his closest ally, US President Joe Biden. While the two leaders have long managed a complicated relationship, their ties have now hit a low point as they seem to be running out of room for maneuver. Their divergence of views on the Gaza war is widening and their political futures hang in the balance. A day after Biden said he would halt weapons deliveries to Israel if the latter went ahead with a full-scale ground offensive in the southern Gazan city of Rafah, Netanyahu has hit back, saying, if necessary, Israel will stand alone and fight with its fingernails till complete victory is achieved over Hamas. He even invoked the war of 1948, where the newly formed State of Israel was attacked by a coalition of Arab states. Netanyahu said, in the War of Independence 76 years ago, we were the few against the many. We did not have weapons. There was an arms embargo on Israel. But with great strength of spirit, heroism and unity amongst us, we were victorious. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant too has dismissed the US warnings, saying Israel's enemies as well as best of friends should understand that the country cannot be subdued. We will stand strong, we will achieve our goals. But for all the bravado, Netanyahu's government has indeed come under pressure after the US decided last week to suspend the delivery of 1,800 2,000 lb bombs and 1,700 500 lb bombs over fears that these could cause civilian deaths in Rafah. Biden's stark warning to Israel, which has taken many by surprise, came soon after the United Nations said that more than 80,000 people had fled Rafah since Monday amid constant bombardment and as Israeli tanks massed close to built-up areas. The UN also warned that food and fuel were running out for the more than 1 million Palestinians still sheltering in the city, as it was not receiving aid through nearby crossings. Israeli troops took control and closed the Rafah crossing with Egypt at the start of their operation, and the UN said it was too dangerous for its staff and lorries to reach the reopened Kerem Shalom crossing with Israel. Israeli forces say they are conducting targeted raids against Hamas in the city of Rafah. But the Israeli government has refused to rule out a full-scale invasion. US analysts say that is what led to Biden's warning that he would not supply Israel with the munitions that it can use in Rafah. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said President Biden does not believe smashing into Rafah would advance Israel's objective of defeating Hamas. But he added, an enduring defeat of Hamas certainly remains the Israeli goal, and we share that goal with them. Meanwhile, hopes of a peace deal, which seemed close earlier this week, appear to be fading. Both Israeli and Hamas delegations left indirect talks in Cairo inconclusive on Thursday. After 7 months of war in Gaza, Israel insists victory is impossible without taking the city of Rafah and eliminating the last remaining Hamas battalions. More than 100,000 people have fled Rafah after Israel intensified its bombardment in the largest movement of population in Gaza for many months. The numbers are expected to rise, with deep concern that the newly displaced people will end up in makeshift encampments without any services, living in the rubble of their former homes without basic essentials necessary for life. So why did Biden decide to go public with his ultimatum to Israel? US officials have been quoted as saying, even under pressure from progressives in his own party to take steps to limit humanitarian suffering in Gaza. Biden had thus far been careful to avoid an open rift with Netanyahu. But following Netanyahu's war cabinet meetings in recent days, a decision to go into Rafah appeared imminent. The Israel Defense Forces established a presence in Rafah and along its border, choking off two aid entry points amid a warning of a larger offensive to come. Ultimately, US officials say Biden came to believe that his warnings were going unheeded, and so he changed course. Last week, Biden signed off on a pause of 3,500 bombs to Israel, which administration officials feared would be dropped on Rafah. And on Wednesday, during a television interview, Biden made explicit to the world what he said he had already made obvious to Netanyahu in private. Biden went on to say, and I quote, "If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah." Israel has claimed its current campaign in Rafah is limited, but doubts linger about Israel's intentions, with little clarity provided to the US on how it plans to proceed. Throughout the course of the 7-month-old conflict, Biden's frustration with Netanyahu has grown, even as the US president maintained publicly that his support for Israel was unwavering and ironclad. Rafah has not been the only irritant in the relationship, though. The IDF's killing in early April of 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers in Gaza, one of them an American citizen, broke the president's already strained patience, say officials. He made clear to his advisors that he saw the deaths of the aid workers as an unacceptable breakdown in some of the most fundamental ways in which he expected Israel to conduct its war, and that the moment required a new response. The question we're asking on Global Lens tonight is this: as ties between Netanyahu and Biden hit an all-time low, and Biden threatens to cut off weapon supplies to Israel in the event of a full-scale invasion of Rafah, can Israel win the war with Hamas without the kind of unconditional support the US has provided thus far?